There are actually so many tier lists out there, and I think they all get something fundamentally wrong. They're all highly personal and they don't apply to your specific playstyle. The underlying problem already begins with the measurement of strength on these tier lists. Most people don't even acknowledge that they are not really judging the tank's level, they are just simply putting the tanks up there which they personally prefer. What is actually making a good playlist? First of all, we've got to be clear about this. We have to measure one of these categories here. We can measure the most fun tanks, what do you personally like, and this also depends a lot on your personal level. This depends on your strengths, your individual strengths. This depends on the kind of goal that you're having. And talking about the goal, there are very different kinds of goals in this game as well. There are those people who are farming win rate. There are those people who are farming damage. They are the people who just play in platoon all the time, and for those, again, the differences or the tank strengths differ from those who play solo. And a beginner never has the same set of skills as a pro, which obviously does make a lot of sense, but also then in that regard you have to acknowledge that a beginner prefers a completely different set of tanks than the pro. So for the beginners it is important what is easy to play. Here it's about armor and also whether the tanks have a higher alpha damage, meaning that you can outtrade those opponents to the front. For the pros then, you can either think about the important aspect being versatility. So you're having good mobility, DPM, some turret armor that you can use in various different positions. Or it is about the specific strength, like one specific characteristic that allows you to just outperform the opponents, like having an STB1 which does have 11 degrees of gun depression, and around for that reason it is much stronger in certain situations, but you got to be sure how to use them, you got to know about that. And then for the tournaments or for the win rate players, win rate farmers, there is the durability, also one very important characteristic, especially for the tournaments. Here it's more about the pushing abilities of a tank and therefore the hit points and reactive armor, so it is more about having something that is never really out of place. With all that in mind, it is almost impossible to create a perfect tier list. Still, I'm going to give it a try. But unlike most people, I'm not going to stick to this standard tier list, just ranking tanks from bottom to the top, but I'm going for an alignment chart to rank the tanks from the worst to the best and also the ease of playing them. So that will just give us a chart that is a bit more complex then, but hopefully allowing you to pick a tank a lot more carefully. Before getting to the next point of the video, I recently got approached for some very nice deals for you guys. You can actually get a 1.8 euro discount on any purchase above 7.2 euros if you are using the AppGallery from URI after you claim the coupon in the link down below. Also, they have a 4.2 euro coupon for purchases above 27.9 euros. You do get 10% cash back for every single purchase on the AppGallery, and for every 10 euros that you spend there, you get a lucky draw that has a 1 in 7 chance of getting a tier 10 certificate, which is actually a great deal. Check out the link for that in the description or in the comments below. Alright, this is what we're working with today. This is the alignment chart going from easy to hard and from weak to strong here. So we've got a lot of tanks here, so buckle up for a longer video on this one. So starting with the Chinese tanks now, we've got the 114 SP2, a tank that has high alpha damage. The armor is good, but enemies with a lot of penetration and especially TDs will penetrate you quite easily. It is not that great for a stronger player who needs the versatility, but it is fairly easy to play because of the high alpha damage. Still, I will not put this too far to the top. It's easy, but it's not that great actually. So we've got next up the BZ75 with a small gun here. And this one is also rather easy to play, has an accurate gun as well, but the armor is not really reliable. I will even say that this is weaker. And just going to put it, it's a bit harder to play with a 460 alpha gun, so let's put it right there. Might not be 100% accurate, and also there will be a ton of tanks just getting into the list here. Next up, we've got the BZ75 with a big gun, 152mm. It is not the same, it has a hash gun, which is quite difficult to play. You have a high alpha damage, so It is actually theoretically high alpha means it could be easy, but hash means you have to be sure how to use ammunition choices wisely. You have to have a good aim, and if you use that correctly, then it might already be a bit stronger, but it's definitely a bit harder. Let's actually put it to the side here. It's going to be a lot harder to make it use correctly, and maybe let's just put it right there. That will do fine. Next up, the VZ-111-5A. This tank has a 420 alpha gun, which isn't all that high. The armor is not reliable. It has some decent accuracy. The armor is just not good. There are many tanks that are better in terms of mobility and damage output. I don't really like this one at all. It can still do some stuff. It's probably also the same level as the BZ-75 here. It has a bit more versatility than the BZ-75 with a small gun. Let's put it right there, right to the center. Next one is the VZ-130, a tank that is not that easy to play because of a low alpha damage. Also, the armor isn't that... It's not really that reliable on the terms of armor, but it has great DPM. It is rather on the stronger side here. It can do a lot of stuff. It can push out opponents. It is also a bit harder to play. Let's put it maybe right there. It doesn't have the hit points to really fully dominate. That's the main weakness there. But it's a really capable tank, definitely. Next one, VZ-113 GFT, the TD, which has been very dominant in the previous meta. It is still having a lot of armor, a lot of hit points, an accurate gun. It is therefore rather easy to play. It is also pretty strong. Let's put it a bit more to the side here. It's the easiest TD to play because of its armor and accuracy, and it's also pretty strong, but it's not as versatile as other tanks. Next one, VZ-121 or WZ-121 has a high alpha damage gun, the highest alpha of all the mediums out there. Actually, it has 420 damage per shot. It has reactive armor, decreasing the damage taken by 27%, but the DPM is lacking. It is also quite strong, and it is rather easy to play, but it is just not that great for the top players because it lacks the versatility and the damage output there. Next one is a 121B, a tank that I personally like a lot more than the VZ-121 because of its great mobility and the special speed boost. It also has better DPM. It can be great for pushing, and also it has adaptive concealment, getting you unspotted after 7 seconds instead of 10, and you do see immediately once you are being spotted. It is also quite capable. I like it, but it is pretty difficult to play because of its lack of reliable armor, although the armor is quite the same as on the 121. But in order to make use of it, you need to be capable of pushes, and the alpha is also not that high. So I will rather put it on the harder side here, and let's put it to the right side. Maybe not up that high, although it can be very, very strong actually. But it's even harder to play than the 113. That might not be all that hard actually. Okay, next one. VZ-132-1, the light tank, Chinese light tank. And this one, it does have a pretty high alpha of 380, if I remember correctly. It does have good DPM as well, but it is the weakest tank in terms of armor of all the tier 10s out there. So it's still pretty easy to out-trade opponents, but if you want to use it correctly, you need to be on a really high level. It's a bit difficult to place this one. It can be fun, of course, to play for everyone. It can be easier to play than a 2100 LT if you're just focusing on out trading. If you want to play it really well, I think there are better tanks though. Let's put it around. Let's not put it up too high here. It's difficult choice here where to put this one actually. I'm not a great fan of it because it lacks the accuracy on the move. But it can do stuff, and it's rather on the easier side of the light tanks, but there is something better that we'll still get to later on. Then we got one more Chinese, that is the 116 F3. It does have a rather high alpha damage of 490 or 480. It does have reactive armor as well, but the armor is also not reliable. Let's maybe also put it right there here. It's a bit stronger than a BZ75, but it's not as easy to play as a 114 SB2 because it doesn't have the alpha damage. I think it's on a similar level here, maybe just a little bit higher because of reactive armor. But it's just not having a reliable armor and not having a reliable gun, so I will put it to the left side on the weaker side here. Also, it's very, very rare at this point still. You're not facing it a lot, but let's just leave it right there. Should you disagree with any of those tanks that I put in these lists here? Let me know your opinion down in the comments below. Okay, we are moving on to the Europeans here. With a 60 TP, this tank does have a high alpha damage of 630, 620. It does have tungsten rounds as well, it does have adrenaline. With the damage output per shot and the good armor that it has, it is definitely a stronger tank and also a rather easy tank to play. Let's also put it right next to the VZ113 GFT. And I think actually it's about the same level, maybe I personally think it is stronger, but I'm an experienced player. I know how to aim well. I think that most people don't like it as much because it doesn't have great accuracy and it also has APCR as standard ammunition, meaning you're having less penetration. So it might be just a bit beneath the 113 GFT there. Although I personally perform better on a 60 TP than on the 113 GFT. I think that doesn't really reflect the average here, but it's definitely an easy tank and also a very good tank to play. Next one is the Karo in line here. The Karo does have an auto reloader gun of 4 shots with 1 reserve shell, so you're actually having a 3-shot auto reloader and you're having a pretty high alpha damage as well. Not the greatest interclip, decent armor, not reliable. I think people on the lower level will feel like this is a good tank. People on the high level might not enjoy it all that much, but I think I will put it next to the VZ121 here. On the easier side, because in almost every situation you are out trading the opponents, but with a lack of reliable armor, it's pretty, I don't know, it's not that great actually. It's still over average as it's quite easy to outtrade the opponents. Let's leave it there. Next one is the CS63. The CS does have a very nice mobility. It does have a little bit of armor. It has the tungsten rounds, reticle calibration. It does have a lot of special consumables. You see, it does have good DPM, great damage output. I personally like to play it with the tungsten rounds and adrenaline. It's quite versatile. Not easy to play because of its rather low alpha damage of 330 and also lack of armor. It's therefore a bit of a harder tank to play. And it is also very, very capable. I will even put it to the stronger side, but it's definitely not an easy one. I think I have to put the 113 further bit to the left still. But let's go for it up here, maybe above the 121B even. Next one is the Kranwagen here. Also an auto reloader, but this one has a phenomenal turret armor. It does have a 3-shot gun of 410 × 3. It does have special speed boost, reticle calibration. It's super reliable. Not the fastest though, yet it is very, very strong and also pretty easy to out-trade the opponents with that insanely strong turret. Most people are just being frightened by it even when just looking at it. So I will also put it very high to the top here and on the easier side for sure. You can see this tank a lot in rating games as well. Let's maybe go for something like that. It's not super easy to play. The problem here is that this tank really requires you to just pay attention to the auto reloading mechanism a little bit, because if you are shooting before you're having the second shot reloaded, for example, then you're wasting the reload of 2 shots just for shooting once. So you still need a bit of awareness, which makes it a bit harder to play, but mostly you're just running around and having 2-3 shots loaded. But it is a hull down tank, which is a bit trickier to play than side scraping tanks and tanks that have great hull armor. So also for slightly experienced players actually. Next one would be, let's go for the competitor, which is very close, the Italian Rinoceronte. This one has also an auto reloader, but much better DPM than the Kranwagen. It does have good mobility, great accuracy, even without any special consumables needed. It doesn't have any either, but it's just so freaking great with that accuracy and good DPM, and it's also pretty easy to play because of great armor. Let me even put it up here, it's way stronger even. It's one of the strongest tanks out there for random games for sure. I will maybe put it right to the top even, and also on the easier side of tanks, maybe even easier than the Kranwagen, because it doesn't have the special consumables that you need to take care of. But it doesn't have as much gun depression, so let's just put it right above there. Next one, Minotauro, also an auto reloader. Here, this one has a lot of armor, it has a lot of gun depression and a high alpha damage, which gets us to the easier side of tanks. It is one of the best tanks on average win rate when you are looking at the average player. It is super easy to play, but it doesn't have great mobility nor DPM, and therefore it isn't a tank for the better players, and it also just cannot really keep up with a lot of other tanks when it comes to the damage output. I would just put it actually not that far to the top. It's still above average. Can I actually just it's getting a bit tricky here to read everything. It's probably around there, easy to play, but not that great on the level. For the beginners or average players, this one will be a great choice, so as you can just face opponents very, very easily with this one. Next one, Progetto 65, a medium tank similar to the Carro to some degree, but this tank does have the 3-shot gun with 350 alpha damage, so slightly lower than the Carro. It does have better accuracy because of the mechanic that keeps the accuracy on the best level as long as you're moving slower than 15 kilometers per hour. It does not have a reserve shell, which I personally think is a benefit to the Progetto. I like how reliable it is. To me, it is actually stronger than the Carro, but people generally probably wouldn't agree with that because the Carro is just easier to play. I will still just say it's a bit harder to play. Let's not put it on the harder side because still you're running around and always having 2 or 3 shots loaded, so you can out-trade opponents quite easily. It lacks a bit of gun depression as well. Let's put it there. That's fine. Stridswagen Kai is next. And this one has good mobility. It has good accuracy nowadays, but the DPM isn't as great for a single shot tank with no armor, no hit points. I think it needed DPM in order to be a great tank. It had its very dominant past already. Nowadays, it's pretty mediocre. I'm not a fan of it anymore. It's pretty weak as well, and it's also pretty hard to play. Let's put it to the bottom here. Actually, I think it's the weakest heavy out there at the moment in this current meta. So I will just say that this tank is one of the hardest and also one of the weakest among the heavies, maybe because it is a heavy tank. Let's not put it all the way to the right side here and leave it over there. And next one would be the TVP, and this one has a 4-shot autoloader of 310 damage, pretty accurate, pretty good mobility, pretty low DPM. It is good for out-trading opponents. It can be fun, but it just doesn't keep up with the DPM that it had in the past. It is still kind of toxic. It's rather easy to play, but not super easy because it lacks the armor and gun depression. So let's put it to the center maybe, but the strength isn't that great. I've got to put some tanks to the bottom as well, so it's going to lag behind some DPM tanks, especially because of the difficulty of putting out the clip, which always needs you to put in some thought into how to use this tank. VZ55, a tank that recently received an auto-loader gun. It has pretty good DPM for an autoloader, has high alpha damage of 480 times 2. I believe, and it does have pretty good accuracy as well. It has good turret armor, good frontal hull armor on top, but it has a large lower plate, it has weak sides. Overall, it's not reliable for pushing in, it's not reliable for holding, it's not a great farming tank. But it is pretty easy to play, and therefore the average player will perform quite nicely and will enjoy it a lot. I don't think the better players will do all too well in it, although for out-trading opponents to the front it is pretty good. So let's also put it around here. Still, it's not super easy because the armor is not fully reliable, but it can still do a lot of stuff. So that will do fine here. Moving on to the French tanks. Starting with a Batchet with a small gun. The small gun recently got buffed to some pretty nice accuracy as well, the same as the old big gun had, while the big gun got nerfed. And nowadays the Batchet has, I mean, it already had great DPM on a small gun. Just that the problem is here that the gun isn't all that accurate. Still, you can sometimes see it in tournaments even, because it is pretty good at 1v1ing the opponents, the other light tanks, as you can just clip them in 2 clips. It is one of the hardest tanks to play because of that low alpha damage. Still, it has some great versatility that you can make pretty good use of. I will just put it to the right side. I will even say it's the hardest tank out there. Maybe one of the hardest for sure. Let's say it's about that strength level here. It's really not a tank for beginners here, so just take my word for it. The bigger gun, 350 damage times 3. By the way, the small gun has 4 times 300 damage and faster intraclip. The bigger gun, it does have 350 damage times 3. The beginners will still like it because it is easier to out-trade than the small gun, but at the same time, if you compare it to other light tanks, which mostly got buffed, then this one just cannot really keep up on the DPM side anymore, and therefore it is rather easy to play, but on the weaker side for sure. So big difference here between the guns. Maybe you will like it with this gun as well if you are a beginner still. Let's actually say it's even weaker than the BZ75 here. And let's put it down there, I would say. It's pretty weak and it's not that easy to play. Let's go for like something like this maybe. Maybe that will do fine here. It's a tough question. I mean, it's still a bit harder to play than the TVP maybe. Let's say it's at the center between easy and hard, but pretty weak actually. And we can move on to the 30B now. IMX-30B does have a 350 alpha gun. It does have pretty bad DPM, great mobility, a lack of armor, 10 degrees of gun depression, so quite fun to play with. Vertical calibration for that insane accuracy. It's been one of my favorite tanks in the past, but nowadays it lacks the DPM to keep up with other tanks. Definitely one of the harder tanks to play, but also unfortunately one of the weaker tanks to play nowadays in this current meta at least. So let's say it's around there and above the Streetswagen still because of that mobility, and yeah, also beneath the BZ with a big gun. Okay. Next one, AMX-50B. This tank has the 4 shots of 380 damage. It is an auto loader, of course. It doesn't have any armor anymore, unfortunately. In the past it had 3 times 400 and some more armor to the front as well. It got the reactive armor instead, which decreases the damage taken by 27%, which can be very nice, but it doesn't affect HE damage, and this tank is a very HE vulnerable tank, so you're not going to enjoy your time if you are finding yourself in the open, facing the side, or if your side faces the opponent or your rear. You can get smacked quite easily. It's also one of the harder tanks to play for sure. Really difficult to make great use of. The thing is, it can still do some stuff with that clip and the reactive armor. Let's say it's around there maybe. That will do it fine. And we can move on to the Foch Oh, we've got two guns here. One of those guns is the auto loader, one is the auto reloader. I guess this is the auto loader. It is actually pretty fast. It has tungsten rounds as well, special speed boost. It's pretty good. It has 580 times 2, I believe, or 560. And if you're using tungsten rounds, it gets up to 640 damage, 644 on average. Therefore, pretty great damage output. The accuracy isn't all that great, though. The armor isn't all that reliable. So you're just often getting caught in the open. So I would say this tank is very capable, but very, very difficult to play. Let's say it's above the bad shit, but not much stronger than the 1-1B, but still a little bit. Let's say it's around there. It's or maybe it's a bit easier to play because it has high damage output. No, not really. It's too unreliable for being a beginner-friendly tank, in my opinion. You need to be able to use that clip, and clippers generally are quite hard because you need to think of where you can find an opponent that is that far in the open that you can actually put out 2 shots, 3 shots into one opponent without getting smacked for it. Then we've got the single shot gun. That one is still not bad. It's probably a bit easier to play, but it's just not having the same damage output. So let's just put it something. It's maybe also decent for pushes against medium tanks, especially. Don't necessarily try to push against heavy tanks. I cannot even say I played it all that much because the autoloader is just a lot more attractive. So let's play it safe and say it's around the mid-level here. AMX M4 is next. A tank that has a lot of hit points. It has reactive armor on top of that as well. So with reactive armor and the 2750 hit points, you are getting to a super heavy kind of level. It is great for winning games, but the accuracy and APCR standard ammo can really mess with your nerves. It's not all that much fun to play because of that. But it's quite easy, I would say. It's just that you need to aim in. For here we've got one tank that is very strong for winning games, but not that great for damage farming. So let's say it's a bit weaker than the 113 because I would just judge in terms of random games here. And it's not capable of doing absolutely everything. Maybe I will actually say that it's actually easier to play than the Kran, maybe something around same level. It's just a bit harder with the reactive armor maybe. And then we've got the 60TP over there. Now we've got to compare as well, and things are getting a bit messy and difficult here. I would say it's doing fine over there. A tank that I personally like to play in Platoon, although I'm not the greatest fan of it. It can really farm some nice win rate. At the same time, it sucks for damage farming. It's just having horrible accuracy and people often absolutely hate it, although it is the meta tank in tournaments still, so that already tells you a little bit. We are seemingly done with the French tanks, although the Murat is missing. Okay, I don't have the Murat up down here, it looks like. No, I don't have the Murat. I will put the Murat. The Murat should be... It's not that strong actually, but it's rather easy to play. Let's say the Murat is around that level because it's rather easy to out-trade opponents, but you're lacking DPM, so I will leave it there. Just imagine it is there. It is right there where you don't see it, of course. Okay, the E100, we are going for the German tanks now. E100 with a small gun has great DPM, but it's the accuracy is also good. You're having a lot of hit points. At the start I liked it a lot, but it's just, let's say it's a bit on the weaker side here actually, because other tanks just do better in many regards when it comes to mobility, etc. But it's pretty easy to play actually. Maybe go a bit down there, close to the BZ75. Just harder to make better use of it because it just has a flat turret. Let's say it's about the same level. Then we go for the E100 with a big gun. This one obviously is also very easy to play, but also not really particularly strong. It's just a bit easier here, similar to the 114 SP2, but it's just lacking DPM. It's still a tank that has a lot of hit points and is very, very easy when it comes to out-trading opponents. It's very easy to learn how to angle this tank, and I would say it's the beginner tank. Everyone who's starting the game should just get the E100 first, because you learn how to angle your armor really well and you can out-trade the opponents quite easily. Let's say it's easy and around the mid-level there. Oh, next up we've got a great one. The E50M is a medium tank that has a lot of armor. The most armor of all mediums maybe? No, that should be the T22, but this one has reactive armor as well, decreasing the damage taken by 27%. And it does have great ramming capabilities. It has a rather high alpha damage. Unfortunately, it does have APCR as standard ammunition. Yeah, I just think it's so easy to play frontally against the enemies. It's currently the best tank for winning games. I will say it's definitely up there, max level, and still pretty easy to play. For beginners, it should be the first medium to grind. For pros, it's also the best tank to farm win rate with. It's a bit harder to play than heavy tanks, of course, but let's say it's up there. Let's say right to the top, definitely, just not the easiest level. Maybe I should also just shove this one a bit further to the side here. It should be a bit harder, yes, because it's not as easy as a heavy tank. Okay, things are really getting messy here. Next one, Gorilla 15. I like this tank a lot, but it is also one of the most difficult tanks to play because it just has a rather low alpha damage, it has no armor at all, and it has horrible gun depression over the front, whereas the gun depression over the sides is actually pretty decent. You've got nice accuracy, you've got a very reliable gun, great for camping, but of course you sometimes have to move, and then that's when things are getting tricky for you. So you need to be able to somehow side scrape, etc. Therefore, I will just say hardest, and I actually like it. I actually think it's stronger than the Batchet. Not necessarily as strong as the Foch, maybe it is, but it's super damn tricky to make good use of it. Let's say it's around there because the Foch can do some more stuff. But this is one tank that is having a very high skill cap, so you can get to a very high level if you are a good player. But if you're not, then you're just camping in the background and you're probably not going to do much with it. Next one, Yak E100, one of those TDs that is also rather easy to play because it does have a high alpha damage. It can just do some great stuff with the big gun of 800 damage per shot, tungsten rounds as well. Should be one of the first TDs to get as well, not because it's so easy to play, but because it's just a lot of fun to have a big gun occasionally. It's rather weak, I would say, and I will actually put it beneath here even. But it can be a lot of fun, that I can tell you. Let's say it's actually harder to play than E100. For the easiest TDs, definitely I wouldn't recommend it. But still, if you want a fun big TD, go for this one, not the 183, because the 183 is absolute trash. Let's go to the next one. Before getting to the 183, we are going for the KPZ-50T, a medium tank that has great DPM. It has tungsten rounds, it has the adrenaline of course as well, but just no other special consumables. It has decent armor, but not being fully reliable on the armor side. I would say it's not really... It's maybe easy to play, but it isn't that great in my opinion. Some people can still perform quite well with it. I will say it's not that strong compared to others. I'm not the greatest fan of it because of its lack of accuracy on the move. Still, it can do stuff. I would go for the T22 instead and not bother with the KPZ-50T though. Another DPM tank here, the Leo 1. This tank is a tank that is being very popular among beginners for historical reasons and because it's a German tank and people think, hey, let's just grind a German tank that everyone knows. But it is one of the hardest tanks to play and it's absolutely no beginner tank. It has not a lot of gun depression. It has a great amount of DPM, really, if not the greatest DPM of all of them. It has adaptive concealment, which gets you unspotted after 7 seconds, and you do see immediately once you're being spotted. It is just so tricky to make good use of the DPM, because you cannot peek frontally at the enemies, because the enemies are just going to outtrade you as everyone has more armor than you. It can still do some very nice stuff. Some people will really enjoy, but those are those which are already on a good level. Well, I would actually just put it there. Unfortunately, it's hiding the gorilla and the batshit now. Maybe it's even stronger than the gorilla. Yes, I will say also hardest, but yeah, just a bit more capable, a bit more flexible than the gorilla is. So let's say something like that should do fine. Okay, also comparable to the CS63. CS63 definitely significantly easier to play than the Leo 1, and also a bit more capable in my opinion. Go for the CS63 at the moment if you are just not that comfortable playing any tank that has no armor at all. And we're going to the heaviest of all of those tanks here, which is the mouse. The mouse is having a ton of armor. It is therefore it should be easy to play, but the armor is not reliable because of the turret armor. It has the cheeks to the sides that can be easily penetrable. The thing is, with the mouse, it is being played for the hit points that it has and for bouncing off shells. For that, you need to be able to play at the front line without dying, which makes it a bit trickier to play. It can be very capable, but it's really not good, not easy to make use of. I will just put it right to the center maybe. The thing is, if you are a beginner, you will just suffer with the armor and the damage output. If you are a pro, you will suffer with the mobility. You can still push in quite nicely with it, but that needs to be timed very well. For platooning, it's good. For solo gameplay, not so much actually. Another super heavy here, the VK7201K. This tank has a 600 alpha damage. Pretty good there. It has great turret armor, but very weak size and a rear mounted turret, making it difficult to play. It has tungsten rounds, which do allow you to have some great damage output. If you are using the armor to a good level, you will actually do very fine in it, but it's really not that easy to make use of it. So I will just say it's not that strong, and also rather hard to play, but it's also not on the weaker side for sure. Maybe just a bit beneath average. Let's leave it at the same level as the mouse actually. Just harder to play. Sometimes the VK72 will do better than the mouse, sometimes the mouse will do better. So that is fine. Next up is another German heavy tank, the VK9001P. This tank is the best side-scraping tank of all of those tanks out there. It has very good turret armor as well, not completely indestructible. It has 460 alpha with very nice accuracy, and it also has the mechanic of keeping your accuracy at the lowest or at the best level, the dispersion at the lowest level, if you are moving slower than 15 kilometers per hour. I will say this one's definitely a stronger tank and also rather easy to play. Let's say it's kind of the same level as the AMX M4, just that the rear-mounted turret makes you suffer sometimes, so I will just leave it there. Then we've got the Hori, an interesting tank at the moment. It has pretty nice, it has the nicest penetration values of all of them. It has some great gun, it has good accuracy as well, it has reactive armor as well, bouncy armor overall. Just that it is not really reliable. One of those tanks that can camp nicely, that can also get aggressive quite nicely. It is among the strongest tanks out there. And I will say it's also not that hard to play, but also not super easy because of the lack of armor. So let's put it right to the center here and say it's among the strongest for sure. The next one is the STB1. I already mentioned it. It has 11 degrees of gun depression. The DPM though is really lacking. So that is a bit of a problem nowadays, but still it has that amazing gun depression, great turret armor, and it can still farm nicely. Also it has premium AP ammunition, so you are able to penetrate a lot more weak spots because you can penetrate stuff like space armor, tracks, etc. quite easily, which increases the amounts of weak spots that are penetrable by a lot. So it's one of the stronger tanks, but with a hull down playstyle, it's also among the harder tanks to play. Let's say it's not quite as strong as the CS63 and also not quite as hard as the 1-1B, but let's say it's about there, the same level. Then we've got the Type 71, a tank that has a huge amount of armor, but against high penetration tanks, the armor just becomes insignificant suddenly. It has premium AP as well with great alpha damage, therefore the gun is quite nice, but at the same time this tank is just, well, it does have good mobility as well. It's pretty easy to play. Let's actually say it's among the easier tanks here, and also a bit above average, but I cannot put it up too high because some TDs will just smack straight through your armor. Okay, that's a tough one. It should be somewhere around there, just that I'm hiding more and more tanks here. I hope you paid attention so far. Okay, we've done the Japanese tanks, and now we are moving on to the British tanks with a Chieftain MK6 up next. This one has hash as premium ammunition. It has tungsten rounds, which increases your damage per shot to like 515, I believe, something like that on the hash. Or some, yes, I don't know for sure right now. It has great mobility, great damage output. It is a hull down only tank. Very, very weak hull armor. One of the weakest of all heavies, if not the weakest hull armor. But the mobility is a great advantage also with the mobility provision that you are having. Damage output is pretty great, but you need to be very capable in order to make use of the hash power. So it is definitely on the harder side. And also among the stronger tanks to play, let's say it is above the STB, somewhere around there I'll place it. That should do fine. Or maybe even harder to play actually because of hash, and hash is really not easy to make use of. You need to penetrate. That's a problem. If you are not able to penetrate then and able to select the ammunition correctly, then hash is useless. Then you should do much better with any tank that only has standard rounds and premium ammunition. And I would even say that this tank has been better when the premium ammunition has still been APCR and the HE had much better penetration back then. So you could still use a lot of HEs there. Nowadays you have hash. It's nice to have, but you're not having the same alpha damage anymore and no premium round, so you cannot penetrate an E100 frontally, which gets you to struggle occasionally. Okay, 183 people always ask me to play this tank, and I always hate my viewers for asking this. Okay, I don't, but this tank is a meme tank. Honestly, it's nothing more than that. It is a tank that is being played because it has a huge alpha damage, the hugest of all of the tanks out there, with a big AP alpha damage of 900 something and 1100 damage on the HE hash, or 1300 even. It's pretty high hash damage, even higher HE damage. You need to be able to select your ammunition wisely though. That is something that many people underestimate. They're just thinking, hey, I've got almost 1k damage per shot on the AP. It should be easy to play, but actually it has no gun depression, it has no accuracy, it has no camouflage, horrible camouflage, absolutely horrible. It doesn't have any strength apart from alpha damage. Still, it is one of the most played tanks out there, if not the most played tank in the game, because people just love that it has such a big smacking gun. But it's definitely the weakest tank to play. Absolutely, there is not even any debate about that, and I could see it on top in a different tier list of some well-known YouTuber. I have absolutely no clue what was riding him there. Weakest tank out there. Super hard to carry games. It's impossible to carry games. It's not meant to be carried to carry games. Actually, it's just not being buffed because it is so popular. If it was buffed in a way that it was actually balanced, then it would be broken because of the high alpha damage. So wargaming is not touching it. It is hard to play. It's super weak. Let's say it's actually, it's even harder to play than the Streetwagen. Yeah, and still mostly beginners play it because they don't realize that it is actually just not capable. That's the big problem here. Okay, after this horrific tank, we are getting to a stronger one. Also a hash tank, FE215B. This one has HE of 170 millimeters, something like that. Really, really great HE penetration. Therefore, you can penetrate so many sites. I highly recommend playing this with calibrated shells, so you can penetrate even more sites with it. You can also use premium ammunition with APCR and pretty good pen. You have great accuracy, you have special speed boost, so you have a really nice mobility, but you've got a rear mounted turret and the armor is not that reliable, so it is not a tank for beginners for sure. Pros will enjoy it a lot, and therefore I will say it's a harder tank to play, but definitely very, very capable. Let's say it's around there, maybe not the strongest, but definitely super capable if you're making good use of it. Next one is the Badger FE217, which no one calls it like that, but it's just the Badger. This tank is a TD with 460 alpha damage, or it had in the past. Nowadays maybe it's a bit weaker, 440. It has good DPM, it has 10 degrees of gun depression, which is really, really strong. It has great armor to the front, it can rotate quite quickly. It has pretty mediocre mobility otherwise. It's therefore rather easy to play. It's on the stronger side for sure. And this tank, I mean, you can make really great use of it. But the problem is that this tank is just really not that capable with the relocations. Let's say it's a bit weaker here. Let's say like that. Like that, that will do fine. Okay, next one. FV405. This tank has been great in the past. When the speed boost, the special speed boost has still been stronger. It got nerfed at some point. And then the reticle calibration was removed, which was the best choice you could have on this tank. Then from 460 alpha on 3 shots, it got nerfed to just having 410 times 4. Nowadays, it's really, really difficult to play. Sometimes it's still capable, but you can just play the 50B instead. This tank, yeah, it's one of the hardest tanks to play. It's also huge. I did not mention that one yet. It's absolutely huge. You cannot hide anywhere. You need to completely relearn where you can cover this tank. It's not great for camping, for getting aggressive. You need to be so selective when it comes to positioning. Still, it can sometimes do stuff, but in order to get the gun to fight, it's just not easy. Let's say super hard to play, lower level for sure. And then we've got the FE4202 with 2 guns, and there is 1 gun that has premium ammunition, 1 gun that has hash. I have to be honest, I cannot really say which gun is which right now. I think this one is the one with premium ammunition of high penetration, heat. It is a tank that is, it does have some gun depression that's nice. It has a little bit of troll armor. I will say actually it's still weaker, but rather easy to play here with this gun. Still quite versatile actually, but no experienced player will pick this gun because that is simply just kind of boring. There you can just pick the hash gun then if you got a good level. The hash gun has great DPM, it has great alpha damage of 440 on the hash ammunition, so again you need to be able to select the ammunition properly in order to make good use of it. Therefore it is among the harder tanks to play, but it is so capable if you're using it correctly. I will even say it's more capable than the Leo or something around the same level. No, it's a bit more capable than that, but super tricky to play. Also not fully reliable. That's for sure, because you're just going to run into situations where hash is not working out, where AP is not working out, where you have to relocate and you're just not having the fastest mobility, and then you are suffering with this tank. Super Conqueror is the next British tank here. The Super Conqueror does have very, very nice turret armor. It does have 400 alpha per shot. It has reactive armor as well, which is always very, very helpful. It is having a single shotgun only. It has troll sights, it is having decent DPM, but not that great. I will actually say because it has 400 damage per shot, it's a bit harder to play. And then the VZ55 or so, it's a bit more capable maybe. Maybe just around the same, no, just not quite as good as the AMX M4, because the AMX M4 is faster and having more hit points, and also not that reliable. It's close, it's very close here. But a hull down tank always needs a bit of practice. So actually, you know what, let's just leave it there. It's a bit more capable than the Badger for sure. Also a great choice. I find it particularly boring actually. It does nothing really special apart from the turret armor. And we've got another hash tank here with a Vickers Light. This one has really strong DPM on hash of 4k plus. It has really low alpha damage though. 350 on the hash, only 310, 300 on the AP. I'm really not a fan of it. It has no reliable armor anymore. It has been really great in the past with 350 alpha damage on the AP and great HE penetration and good pramo as well on top of that. Nowadays, it's pretty hard to play, and also do I put it to the lower side? Actually, I won't, because it is just, it can be capable, just a bit beneath average, I would say. Yes, I will leave it there. Maybe even further to the right side. Yeah, it's also one of the hardest tanks to play. Can be fun though, but difficult one. Alright, next up is the Concept 1B. A tank that has great turret armor, one of the best turret armors, along with a Kranwagen, I would say. On top of that, it does have pretty much nothing apart from the gun. 380 alpha damage is also not that high, so it's a bit harder to play. It is having good DPM, so it is capable. Let's say it's a bit easier to play here than the STB1. Not much actually, but let's say it's around mid-level here on the difficulty level, while just being a bit more capable, but it lacks hit points, so I cannot put it up too high. So let's say same level as the STP1. And we're going for the second American tank here with the M60 on that small gun. 3 shots of 300 alpha only. Good accuracy, good DPM, very good DPM for an autoloader. Decent armor all around for an autoloader. This one's a good starting tank actually. But the small gun is just not that capable, I would say, although it can still be fine. I would say it's just a bit easier to play than the mediums here. And actually, it's meh. Not super strong here. Let's actually say it's even easier than KBZ50T, but on the same level there. Yes, maybe even not that much better than the BZ75 or the E100, but still a little bit. Then we've got the big gun on the same tank. This one does have 450 times 2 in just 1.7 seconds. Oh, by the way, the small gun also has intra-clip and reticle calibration. I would recommend using both actually, because the intra-clip isn't that fast. So the intra-clip booster on the equipment is nice to have, reticle calibration is nice to have, but not necessary on that one. On the big gun, I would not use the intra-clip booster because you're just already having a really fast intra-clip and you are just having your wood raised over repair kit for that. I don't think it's necessary. I would just go for the reticle calibration. With that you have 900 damage with great accuracy, decent armor. That's pretty cool actually. So it's maybe on the stronger side of things here, and also a bit easier to play than the Progetto. The 1-to-1 is completely hidden nowadays, but I will just say it's around there. That should do fine over there. It's a bit easier to play. It's a bit better than many tanks as well. Let's leave it there. Many tanks are actually on the weaker side, on the easier side here. Let's see where this leads us. There is also then the M48 pattern, also quite easy to play. 340 alpha damage currently, good DPM, reactive armor. I'm not a great fan of that. It can be useful, but with the 8 degrees of gun depression, it's just mediocre, I would say. Has some decent armor level though. It's fine to play. Also a good beginner hull down medium tank. Just that I'm not particularly excited about this one. Then we go for the M60. Its premium counterpart, mostly it's been the same almost as the tech tree version. This one has 350 alpha damage, slightly lower DPM than the M48. This one does have the provision for the sandbags for extra hit points. instead of the reactive armor on the M48, this one has special speed boost, so you can really have some nice mobility, but using that is a bit more difficult. So I will just put it further to the right side here, but it has 10 degrees of gun depression compared to the 8 degrees on the M48. I think that is much better to have. That's a fourth more. That's 25% better gun depression there. So actually quite nice. DPM is okay. The accuracy is pretty good as well. I will say it's on the better level, and actually I do like it a lot. It's about the same level as the STB1 for me, but it's kind of difficult to play. Let's say it's about there as well, similar to the 121B. Just maybe it's a bit easier to play because it has more gun depression, but okay, that's doing fine right there. T110E3. One of the easiest TDs out there because it has 680 alpha damage, really high alpha damage. It has great HE as well, it has a lot of armor, but it's not fully reliable. It's just very easy. It has special speed boost as well, if I remember correctly. Yes, I think it still has it. It's not particularly fast though. So let's say it's about the same level as the 100, a bit weaker than the Minotauro because it's a bit more difficult to use a single shot tank with no turret. So let's go for around there, maybe put it to the center, maybe a bit above. There's still Badger. Okay, the Badger will do a bit better here. Okay, let's leave it there. T110E4 then is a tank that has, unlike the E3, it has a turret, but it's not fully rotatable. This turret only traverses for 90 degrees to either side. You do have a lower alpha damage of 620, I believe, yes. It has good DPM, but the armor is totally not reliable. It's pretty good at face hugging though, but you rarely get to do that. It's mid-level, a bit harder to play than the E3, but still a bit easier than many tanks because it is just, you can just turn and do stuff. So let's leave it there. Then we've got the T110E5, a tank that is actually also rather easy because a hull down tank. It has great turret armor, it has decent DPM, decent, rather bad mobility actually, no hull armor, don't count on it. I would say it's a bit easier than, maybe it's a bit harder than the VZ because it has to be played hull down. Oh, it's a tough one, but I will just say it's a bit on the weaker side as well, similar here. Okay, let's say it's there. I cannot decide on this one. Okay, so the E5 is an interesting tank for its accuracy and hull down capabilities, especially for the beginners. Then the T57, this one does not have any reliable armor, just a bit of troll armor on the turret. It has a very nice accuracy on the gun. It has great damage output, but it's difficult to play. It's easier to play than the Batshit for sure, but it's not a great damage outputting. I mean, it can put damage out, but it cannot really carry games. So I will say it's on a weaker side, maybe just around there. For an autoloader, it's not all that difficult. No, I should put it to the harder side compared to the E5. I'll just have to put more tanks to the right side still. This will never balance out perfectly, but yeah, we will just trust the progress. T95E6 is a tank that has great mobility, great DPM, therefore great damage output, but it has only 400 damage per shot, has great accuracy as well. It's very, very capable for carrying and for, not for winning games only, but also for dealing damage. But as it has very low amounts of armor, it has to be played hull down, so it's among the strongest tanks for me, but also rather difficult. It's quite nice that you can actually side scrape a little bit with it. You can be hull down, you can counter mediums so nicely with it, and you can still do stuff against heavy tanks. I would say it's among the strongest tanks at the moment, just that it is not the easiest to play, but it has a great, the cupola buff really did great on this T95E6. Oh, Sheridan Missile I will actually leave out because it can only be played in special game modes. So we go for the Sheridan, which is a good beginner's light tank because of its high alpha damage of 560 damage per shot. Or 570 nowadays. I think it got buffed a little bit. It is okay. It's okay. For beginners, it's nice because you can outstrade opponents and you can just have a bit more time for relocations, as you can have the 14 seconds or so in between the shots, allowing you to really think about what to do next. But it's not particularly strong. Still great to learn light tank playstyle. So I will say it's among the weaker tanks for sure, and among the easier tanks as well. Let's say around there it is. XM66F. This tank does have great DPM. It has good mobility, very good mobility for a TD. It has no fully traversable turret. You cannot even traverse it for more than 45 degrees, something like that. It can do some nice damage though. I really like it, but it's more difficult to play than a Concept 1B. I will say it's around there, maybe even more capable than those mediums. Very difficult. I mean, very difficult to really carry games because you need to be hull down. And you don't have a turret like on a Concept. Let's say around there. Not super hard because you have very nice turret armor and good amount of gun depression, 10 degrees. And therefore also, yeah, the great damage output. It's pretty nice actually. And then there we go on to the IS-4. IS-4 recently received special speed boost, has some armor again. It has good DPM, but it just doesn't have any accuracy. I don't really like it, honestly. Great DPM, great mobility, okayish armor, but the accuracy, it just sucks. And there is no debate about that, so I will just also put it on a slightly weaker side still. And so it's around there. For damage farming, it's horrible. For win rate, it's not reliable enough. Honestly, it isn't. Still stronger than TVP and T57 here, but let's leave it next to the VZ-111-5A. Then we've got the IS-7, a tank that has good armor. It has, actually, thinking about it, IS-4, you need to be able to use the speed boost, otherwise it's useless. So let's put a bit further to the harder side here. IS-7 then, a tank that has great armor, but a pike nose that is not easy to play with. Then you have 460 alpha per shot, but you are also having tungsten rounds, increasing your damage even further. Can be nice, but with a lack of accuracy, it's also not that easy to play. I will say it's close to the VK72, can be capable, but oftentimes it's not. Let's say it's maybe even a bit stronger because it can be nice for pushes and you can get a lot of ricochets off your sides with spaced armor. A lot of people will bounce that, so it can do some nice stuff still, but it's not much further up there. Oh, next one, 140. Object 140, Russian medium tank. This one has no armor at all. It has great DPM, one of the highest DPMs, but if you want great DPM, you can play the Leo, you can play the CS63. This tank just has no armor, not the greatest mobility, not the greatest camouflage compared to the light tanks. So it's one of the weakest tanks, the weakest medium tank out there at the moment. And also very, very difficult to play. Let's say it's still more capable than the Streetswagen and the 183. But let's also put it to the side there. Then we've got the Object 260. A tank that has great mobility, great DPM, great for countering medium tanks. But then it's the E6 that does the same thing, but better. The pike nose of the 260 can be helpful mostly. It's not. The armor is okay, it's not bad, but you're not getting that many ricochets anyways. So I will say it's quite hard to play. Many people will suffer with it. Maybe it's a little bit on the weaker side actually. Let's say it's around that level down there. I personally still like it a lot, even though I would say on average it's not that great. I still like it more than the IS-4. Okay, we'll be around that level there. Good. Next one is the 263, a tank that has great mobility, great damage output, 460 alpha damage, really nice DPM, but it's super difficult to make use of it because you're having no gun arc to the sides. And you're not having any gun depression either. You have great armor, but only when facing the enemies frontally, and you're not going to get used to that because you're just suffering with that. You have great mobility, but you're not getting to the front of the enemies without showing a low plight all that often. So it's on a weaker side. Although it can do some nice stuff, I unfortunately have to put it down there next to the 50B, even lower actually. Yeah, it has to be lower than the 50B because it's not as durable. Still a bit more capable than the FE405 and the 140, but not much, just a bit. Let's say it's around there. Yeah, let's say that will do fine there. Oh, then we go to the Object 268 V4, and you can see the bottom row here is getting thinner. We are on the last few tanks. Now I'm moving the wrong tank. The Object 268 V4 is super easy to play. It has high alpha damage. A lot of tanks will bounce to the front. A lot of opponents don't know how to penetrate this tank reliably. So it is super easy, yes, but not very capable. It can still get you to some above average level quite easily if you are a beginner or average player. But for every advanced player, it will just be super boring and not flexible enough, not reliable enough. But it just allows you to get a lot away with a lot of weird moves, because people will just bounce off of your front all the time. Moving on to the Object 268, a tank that has some very nice mobility, 680 alpha damage I believe as well, great alpha damage, therefore good accuracy, good mobility, all around a nice versatile tank. Rather difficult to play though, because it isn't really having armor. It is a great tank if you are a beginner and want to get used to more campy playstyle and want to have some tank to camp with, then it's better than the Gorilla for sure. It's still not really good. I have to put it down there quite far. I would say easy to play, yes, on a bad level, but if you want to get to a good level, then you need to be an advanced player. Still, it's not a great tank at all. So let's say it's along the lines of the T57, maybe a bit weaker or same level, something like that. Let's just say roughly the same there. Then we go on to the Object 777. Very nice tank, rather easy to play. Doesn't have a lot of gun depression though, so I will have to put it further to the right side. It's actually even better than the 113 or same level, similar level. Let's say it's around there then. Kind of the same, let's say a bit above there. But you are not having great penetration values, you're having a bit more alpha damage, maybe a bit easier to play, let's say something like that. That's fine. And I hope people remember the other tanks behind there that are already hidden, like the 1-1 which is there. And we move on to the Object 907, a difficult tank to play for sure. This one has a nice gun, 330 damage per shot I believe. It has decent armor that can get away with some stuff. It is quite versatile. It has tracer shells, really helpful, super helpful mechanic to keep enemies spotted for 20 seconds. It has the vertical calibration, so nice accuracy. It's a bit more of a light tank actually. Still, it is a medium technically, so you're not having the light tank bonus of same camouflage on the move as if you're standing. Pretty nice tank, I like it, but pretty hard to make a good use of, so I will also have it around the 1-1B here and on a similar level. Maybe a bit stronger. I would say it's a bit stronger and maybe a bit more difficult. Same, similar. Let's go for that one. I like it a lot, but it's not particularly beginner friendly because you're not having a ton of armor. Then we have the T100 LT. Also that one has tracer shells. Also that one keeps the enemy spotted for 20 seconds. Best light tank out there at the moment for me. I really love that one. But as a light tank with great DPM and low alpha damage, it is one of the harder tanks to play for sure. It can really do some nice stuff, especially if you're running around the map a lot and if you are able to push into enemies, if you find the isolated opponents. This tank does really do some nice stuff for winning games, for farming damage. Lovely tank. Also premium AP, really having great penetration values there. I just am a great fan of it, but with a lack of gun depression, lack of alpha damage, it's definitely among the harder tanks to play for sure. And we're getting closer to the end here. Only 4 tanks remaining. T-22, also one of the best tanks at the moment. Only slightly behind the E-50M. Because it doesn't have the same amount of gun depression. And also that makes me just go further to the harder side of tanks here. This one does have tungsten rounds as well. It has great DPM. It has the capability of reverse side striping, which is really, really rare. It can really do some lovely stuff. Great for out-trading opponents if you are using that armor properly, which is not that easy. Maybe I should put it further to the right side here. Yes. Let's go over there actually. Stronger than a CS63 even. But it is just also quite difficult to make good use of it. So, lovely tank. If you will get your hands on it, go get it. You're not going to regret this one. And then the T-62A has special speed boost, great armor to the front. Sides are pretty weak though. Also the rear, of course. You do have also 330 alpha damage, not a 310 of the T-22. So a bit easier to play. But I got to just put it down a little bit because it is just having lack of gun depression. It is, I'd still say it's a bit above average, but a bit harder to apply than the Yo, etc. So let's go for around there. Although not really above average, something like that. I feel like there's a bit of a lack of tanks over there. So many on the easier side. I mean, I should probably just shove many tanks to the right side here, but let's not do so. Let's not bother about the perfect balance here anymore. Now up to the remaining 2 German tanks here, which I added later on. Waffen F1 is a tank that has 2 guns actually, although I only have 1 here. It has a 3x560 gun and autoloader, of course. It has really big damage output if you manage to penetrate all shots, especially if you're using in the HE. It is having tremendous amounts of damage per shot, but it is a huge tank. It can get HE'd from the sides and even sometimes from the front, from the rear definitely. You can barely hide anywhere, so it's kind of similar to the 183, super hard to play. And I will say it's around a little bit better than the 183. It also has a small gun of 5x350 or so. That is... I don't see any point of playing this one because you have to extend for a long time in order to get your shots out. Super hard to play, can have some great games, but overall it's just not reliable enough to have a good overall damage and win rate with it. And for the last one here, we've got the RHMPZW Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. I am still lacking a nickname for it. It has no armor at all, pretty difficult to play therefore. It has, on the other hand, it has 330 alpha damage, so not all that bad. It has tungsten rounds, it has reticle calibration, it has special speed boost, it has the reactive armor as well. It does have the adaptive concealment. It does have, so that gets you unspotted after 7 seconds. It does have the sandbag provisions, that gets you some more hit points. It does have the tracer shells as well, getting the enemies spotted for 20 seconds. All of that can be quite beneficial to the level of this tank. Still, it's super tricky to play because it doesn't have any armor, so I would only recommend this to the better players. APCR standard ammunition with poor accuracy, not a fan of that. I will say it's about the same level as the Leo actually. Maybe, no, it's about the same level. So I think we are done with the list. I hope I didn't forget about any tanks. Also, huge thanks to WoTB here who actually uploaded all of these images to the tier maker website. Some of these I still had to add on my own, but huge thanks to him for preparing this for anyone else, everybody to use here. You can make your own. Let me know your own opinion about these tanks and my strength comparison here down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Hope you get away something here.